Well, hello. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm really excited. I know you guys are going to enjoy this panel. I mean, just in preparation for it, fireside chat, although there's no fire.
There's no fire.
We can pretend, though. In the in the first 5 minutes, I learned something from Lina. So I know that you're going to get a lot out of this. First of all, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Leven. I'm the VP of Sales at Swoop, and what we do at Swoop is we help find, target, and engage with patients and providers using privacy-safe, zero-knowledge methodology. But really want to focus on Lina today, and she's going to probably blush because I'm going to go through her accolades. Lina is the Chief Brand Officer at Eli Lilly. I know, a very small company. She's really earned some impressive accolades, recognized as top 25 DTC marketer, an Ad Age Woman to Watch, and an MM&M Woman to Watch. Obviously, Brand Innovators named her as one of the top 100 women marketers. So with her sort of extensive experience as an executive mentor and board member, I know you're going to find this chat valuable. And anything you want to say about your career or anything that we didn't cover in that intro, Lina?
Well, thank you for the intro. First of all, it's great to be here. Not anything else in particular. I think the only other dimension that maybe that is not covered by the titles or the accolades is the fact that I come from a different country, and I was very fortunate to be able to kind of mold my career to be surrounded by the things I really love to do. And so that's been kind of a long progression, but one that allowed me to do, always center the work around things that I love to do.
Yeah, well said. So to start, what are some of the superpowers you've observed in remarkable marketing leaders today?
I think there are some superpowers that are constant within great marketing leaders and leaders in general, and then superpowers, so to speak, that are specific to the times. And so in general, a good leader, and not just a marketing leader, but a good leader has many abilities, but first and foremost is the ability to define reality and to define current state, and then to envision future state and paint a picture that's very precise, without necessarily always the bridge to get from current state to future state, but being able, and I think in marketing, you have more tools to decide and to describe what current state looks like. The biggest and the more ability you have to describe the reality of the situations for your team and for the marketplace, the more impactful you are to lead towards future state. So I think that is, number one from a marketing perspective. And then from a leadership perspective, I think I always say whether, whatever your background is, whenever you are able to find what I call your place of genius and to lead from your place of genius, which is that moment in which you feel like this is exactly where my passion and my work and my skill set intersect. It's kind of like that feeling when you're cutting wrapping paper and the scissor starts gliding. That's your place of genius. If you're able to lead from that, and so that requires you to be very authentic and honest with yourself and say, here's what I am good at, what I love to do, but also what I'm willing to work. Leading from that place makes a different type of leader because it creates passion that if it's coupled with empathy and understanding of the importance of, the fact that you have people on your team and not just resources, then creates the magic.
That makes complete sense. So going back to 2004, when you started your career at Lilly, right? You started as a senior sales rep. You worked your way into marketing and then sort of brand departments. What do you think has been the key to your continued elevation and to ultimately find your place of genius?
Yeah. The first half, so I've been with Lilly for 20 years this year, and I moved to the US and then wanted to be in marketing. After I got my MBA, I wanted to be in marketing, didn't have any connections, so started to sales as a way to get into marketing. The first 10 years of my career, I would say maybe a little bit less than 10 years, but the first half has really been always taking the job that nobody wanted. And that went from, and being clear about the job I wanted, though, even though nobody wanted to give me that job. So, I got into Lilly because I wanted to get into into marketing, couldn't get into marketing, but I was clear that's what I wanted to do, and I wanted to big impact. I knew I wanted to work for a big company that had some sort of impact on humanity. And that wasn't in the plan for somebody that just literally landed and had a limited knowledge of English. But I took the job nobody wanted, in the sense that at the time I was in Los Angeles, everybody wanted to sell in Beverly Hills. I took sales as a way to, get into the company and get into marketing. And so I bought this book that said how to land a pharmaceutical job in 3 days, and I literally did everything that book said to do. But it took me 5 months, but I did get a job. And it was the job nobody wanted, because nobody wanted to sell in the high desert. And I didn't know where the high desert was to begin with. And all I owned was a mattress at the time. So I was like, sure, I will move to wherever you need me to move to. And I got the job, in the Inland Empire and covering everywhere from Victorville to Temecula. For those of you guys who know Los Angeles, that's a big area. And nobody wanted that. And then when I kept wanting to move into marketing, at the time, I got this random job that nobody wanted, which was called e-marketing. It wasn't yet even digital. And it was, could we serve some banners to doctors? And, you just take the job because nobody wanted it. And, and then I launched fibromyalgia online and show that you can have an impact on revenue. At the time, it was like, yes, doctors will read what you put online, and they would actually be persuaded. And then from there, as after a while, then your work starts to get noticed. I would say the first part was, a good mix of resilience and delusional attitude towards just taking the job because it was a way into the door. And then, really honing into my craft and really always trying to stay true to what I wanted to do and have the North Star in front of me. Even when people told me you don't have the path to get there, things change, company change, company culture changes, policies change in the years. And so just being clear, like, okay, maybe I can get it to this year. Maybe I have to go through the high desert, but eventually I'll get to where I want to be. And just have that clarity of communication with people has helped.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, what kind of advice would you give for those in the audience that are aspiring to reach the C-suite beyond what the advice that you just gave?
Well, I think it's not necessarily, the C-suite or where you want to get to. Is more so being clear of the reason why you want to, what is your ambition driven by, and staying true to that portion. And I think, always understanding that you are bringing something to the table. You have a skill set at whatever part and portion of your career you're in. But you also always have to stretch. But if you're clear about where you want to go, I think that helps a lot. And also know your North Star can somewhat change. Sometimes you start with like, I want to be this type of person. I want to be this type of leader. I want to have this type of position. That's just a feeling and not necessarily a specific position. And that's perfectly okay too, just knowing what you want, the impact that you want to have. That's just as important as saying, I want this particular title. I didn't have that clarity at the beginning of where I wanted to be. Title-wise. Yeah.
You talk about your North Star. Was there a mentor that helped you define what that North Star was and guided you along the way?
Not to define it. I think I was pretty stubborn about where I wanted to be at the beginning. Mentors, yes, there's been definitely mentors along the way. I know you and I had conversations around this, but there's definitely been mentors. I think sponsors have been even more important, more of a discovery for me.
Yeah, I think you saw the light bulb that went off in my head when we had this conversation about, you talked to me about research that Lilly did in 2016 about the fact that women were, potentially over mentored but under sponsored. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because for me, I don't know about everyone in this room, but that was.
Yeah. So in 2016, we took a look at the journey of women in leadership at Lilly the same way that we would look at a patient journey. So when we are launching a new molecule, we want to understand the experience of a patient, and then we understand the moments of truth and the tensions within the journey, and we try to relieve that tension with the brand features, so to speak. And so we kind of took a look at the journey of women within Lilly and women in career at Lilly, and just opposed it also to the journey of men. And yes, we had many moments of truth that came out in the data. One of them was the fact that women tend to be over mentor and under sponsor. So we get to get a lot of mentors. There's a lot of people that love to tell us what to do. There's a lot of people that want to give us advice, which is great. And you need mentors. All of us need mentors in our life, both personal life and professional life. The difference when it comes to career advancement and advancing women at work is having sponsors. So having somebody that's different from a mentor, and a lot of times you don't even know that you have a sponsor. Sometimes you don't have a relationship with the sponsor like you would with a mentor. But a sponsor is somebody that will understand what you bring to the table and what asset you are and what your skill set is, and then advocate for you and actually move things for you behind closed doors, or a person that has enough influence to be in the rooms where you are not, and says your names in the rooms where you are not, and advances your career. So this is the type of person in your career that will push you, or you may not even know that person, but they may say, we have this opening, I've seen this person, and you need to put her in the job, and I will vouch for her. So sponsors tend to be more important when it comes to impact on your career. You need both. And we found that men have a bigger understanding of what a sponsor is, and typically tend to engage or tend to establish relationship in a way that they will, based on sponsorship and not based on mentorship. We tend to look at our work, put our work forward, and then we tend to, we'll build authentic relationship, and so do men, by the way, but we'll look at, okay, can I learn from you, or can I be mentored by you? And then we hear it all the time, you need a mentor, you need a mentor, you need a mentor, like that's the key to the career. You do need a mentor. A mentor is somebody you can be completely vulnerable with and go and ask, how do I show up in this meeting? How do I better myself here? But a sponsor is somebody that says, there's an opening coming up, or you're doing this job today, but you can do a lot more. You should run this place, and I'm going to show you what job you need to get there. So somebody that really takes ownership in your career and doesn't have to have a mentorship relationship with you.
So who holds the responsibility of sponsoring in a woman's career?
That's a great question. I think, if you also, there's been some literature now around, literature is a very hard word for me to say. There's been some studying around, the roles of sponsors now that there's been more work done with women's, progression from a more like data perspective. And so I think there's theories around there, who wants the responsibility, but I don't think there's like a, cut and dry way to look at it. From my perspective, it's the responsibility is kind of equally shared, to where if you as a woman or a man are in a position where you are influencing career as part of your job, then you should look not just as women, but you should look to become a sponsor of people that just don't start from an equitable place. It's part of the job of being a leader. So if you and I both have to get on this stool, and I'm taller than you, or I have heels and you don't have heels, right? Yeah. But you can say, hey, it's an equal stool. But if we start from different places, or if I had to come from around the corner, you're gonna have to wait for me. If we all want to get here at the same place, that's the role of a sponsor either. So if you are in a position of influencing anybody's career, of course look for skill set, of course look for the right fit, but do an extra effort to take a look at what are the people that did not have the same access to those opportunities or don't have the same relationship. So that to me is the biggest piece. And then as women, we have a responsibility also to know that exists, and then we have to look for sponsors. And that's not as comfortable typically for us as it is to look for a mentor. Because a mentor relationship puts you in a position of saying, hey, I'm missing something and you're going to help me get. So it's like, it's easier for us to say like, hey, I'm not just as good in this place. Can you help me get better at this? A sponsorship relationship, as a person, you have to approach it as, hey, this is what I want. I want to get here. You have the ability to get me to this position, or how can I help you? But also, how can you help me get there? And so it's a different type of conversation. And a sponsorship relationship also, when it progresses, sometimes it's also mutual, a mutual relationship, in the sense that, for example, I'll use myself as an example. If I'm sponsoring somebody, it's not like a badge. I'm now sponsoring you. Yeah. But that person also sometimes tends to gear my ears to the ground. And, maybe there's a mutual relationship of trust where I may push this person forward because they have the skill set and I believe that they should achieve great heights. And at the same time, this person may be the one that comes to me and has the courage to tell me, you know what, people are scared to tell you this, but here's what's actually going on. That's a perfect example of a sponsorship relationship.
Yeah, well said. Are there any other barriers that you can sort of think of or have observed for those who are like aiming to become marketing leaders?
In what sense? What do you mean? Like additional, specific to whom?
Like beyond not defining a sponsor or a mentor, other barriers that you've seen?
I mean, I think if we're speaking specifically to women, just defining your ambition still becomes, it's still a difficult place for women to, more than just women, but just to define. So like having conversations around an outcome instead of the work that you will put to get to that outcome, I think that still sometimes is a barrier. And then, I think as a collective industry, we've done a lot of work to have a vocabulary that speaks to equity, but not necessarily, we still have a lot of work to do. So there's definitely barriers, not just for women.
To put that into action. Yes. Yeah, it makes complete sense. So I want to shift gears. It's obviously been quite a remarkable year for Lilly. You've rolled out impactful campaigns that have really not only influenced culture, but I would say transformed the Lilly brand story. What are you most proud of that you've accomplished in this past year?
I am incredibly proud of the campaign work. I think, the campaign is the outside face of the work that it takes to create a brand. I somewhat joke that the company is 150 years old almost, but we're just building the brand now. And so that has been like a pure exercise in brand building. I have a great team to work on some of that work. And then it's been an experience for myself as a marketer to our agency partners are at Wieden and Kennedy. And the level of creativity when you're building a brand from the legacy of a company that they can add to, it's been, absolutely like the height of a career to be able to work, with that level of talent from a creative side, both on the agency side and as well as the directors we have chosen and, anyone that has touched the production. So I'm extremely proud of the work from a pure craft marketing point of view. Very proud of the partnership that, we have both on my team side and then with Wieden and Kennedy specifically, because we have a creative team that is so passionate about this brand and understands the essence of it. But then very proud of the outcome. I mean, we basically created an overarching umbrella that establishes who Lilly is as a medicine company, and then proved that instead of doing PR campaigns, we proved that through the work. And so we created film and crafts that basically shows our commitment to Alzheimer's and how we stayed into the difficult task of finding at least the beginning of a treatment or slowing down for the disease after 30 years of research spent and many billions of dollars invested in public failures in that effort. We then moved on to proving the working obesity and destigmatizing the stigma around obesity actually being a disease, as well as, calling out some of the improper use that's currently happening with our film Big Night. We had some out-of-home campaigns done for atopic dermatitis to show the work in how we are addressing how atopic dermatitis is most prevalent in skin of color, and yet doctors don't have pictures of patients with skin of colors in their books, so they don't get trained on how to recognize eczema in the population that needs the help the most. And we continue to evolve the story into One Body, which we debuted for the Olympics this year, and it's just been an incredible effort, to your point, to not just create a brand and a brand expression and the campaign, but really leaning into big moments in cultures like the Olympics and the Oscars.
Yeah. So certainly very busy. We were talking about the many hats that you wear, and I think one of the things that has been percolating for me is, right, when it comes to leading a brand and ultimately your own career, how do you navigate shifting expectations but also maintain your own vision?
I think it really boils down to the vision. To some degree is the most important because it's the destination, and it goes back to like being able to define reality as it is today and the delta to where you want to get. But how you get to it is really the art of a leader. So the way you navigate this is there isn't a no that I can get that doesn't spark something else. And I think I also very, very, very lucky to have a team that has kind of the same fire. So even on, when we got a lot of no's on the way to get to the film that were aired, but my answer was also, that's a creative challenge. So just don't tell me what I need to do. Just tell me what I cannot do. And then let me take it back to the team. And that will be a creative challenge. And I have the utmost trust in this creative team that there is no challenge that they cannot solve creatively. So we ultimately sometimes got to better work than even when we started because of the no. So I think as long as you're clear, not just where you want to get, but where you want to get to in your vision has to be not really about you. It has to be about the brand, and it has to be about something that is relevant, that is true, and is important. And if you believe in that importance, then it's just detours, and detours are just part of life. And so I think holding that up is how you get to it. The lonely and sometimes exhausting part of being a leader is that sometimes you have to rely on your own propellers and your own energy to do that while you're carrying the team, because it can be demoralizing. But so I think that's also a big role that a leader has, is to infuse the energy and protect the team from some of the energy depletions.
Fly the plane, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take out the snipers.
I can imagine there's going to be quite a few questions. So I think maybe at this time we'll open the floor.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So in case you didn't hear, the question is why this, kind of rebranding to a medicine company from a pharmaceutical company. I always say the best part of this strategy and campaign has been that I didn't have to make anything up. It was just, we did a lot of interviews within the company prior to starting the campaign, and we did a lot of work. And I've been at the company for 20 years. Obviously, I know a lot of the culture. And really what we found through that kind of foundational work was that everyone at Lilly, first of all, I feel like every pharmaceutical company does put the patient, at the center, obviously. But the difference with Lilly, as we were talking to anyone from like the most senior people to the very last person that closes the manufacturing line, is that every single person at Lilly, no matter the job, sees a person on the other side of the prescription. So it's really this humanity that's very different from this brand than the pharmaceutical category. The pharmaceutical category, which there's nothing wrong with the category, it's very patient-centric, very patient-focused, but it is, kind of process-oriented to get a molecule to market. And the difference, I think, was this humanity. Really, Lilly, culture-wise, really has a keen understanding of the fact that life is the most precious and precarious thing we have, and our way as employees and people that work at Lilly to impact humanity and to impact life is through medicine. And so that switch kind of resulted, it was a way to summarize all of that in the fact that pharmaceutical is kind of like is a category. Medicine is for people, is what people take. When you are ill, hopefully you look for healing, but what we can offer is a medicine. We don't offer the industry. And so it was a way to summarize the humanity of the company. Thank you. That's a great question. So in case you guys didn't hear it, what's the advantage of having kind of a career growing up inside a company and versus coming in externally? We were just talking about how, COVID has really fostered, I get a lot of questions around, hey, you've been at the company for 20 years. Is it good or bad? Because, COVID has fostered a lot of changes in careers, which was a great thing to do, I think, for people at the time. I think the advantages for me of growing with the company, first and foremost, all of us, I think you reevaluate your company and your position, and you should every year. Like this is a constant dialogue that you have to have with yourself and with the place where you work. And so me staying 20 years means that for 20 years there was a positive, interaction, for me. And the advantages of that, I think, obviously I get to know the internal cultures and kind of the internal way of doing things. I think it has built credibility because throughout those 20 years, if you deliver results throughout the 20 years and, if you've taken risk from a marketing perspective and, maybe you did catch a couple of no's and then still deliver, then it creates credibility because my brand internally and externally, it's always been, it's a very passionate human way to approach marketing, but I deliver business results and I deliver business impact. And what marketing does is a way to really fully understand human insights, hopes and fear in people, and then deliver for benefits for them. And so if you're able to do that consistently, it builds also, I think, an internal credibility, which in turn allows you to help your team move faster. Because if you're able to, become a sponsor also in that sense for the work, then it creates the credibility. I would say, when I look at my peers or when I have conversation, one thing that I am told I have done differently, especially within Lilly, is yes, I've grown within the company and I cherish that very much, but I've always had such a keen interest for the external world. So I've always regarded myself as a marketer, and I feel like I have a very close pulse on culture just because I care and it interests me. And so I haven't been completely, just one-dimensional, and I think that's been probably a good mix for me. I love that question. Thank you for that. And I could have another panel just on that. It's because that is the essence of what I'm trying to do. So, yes. So if we're a medicine, so the question was, where are other arenas in which we're excited to show up as a medicine company now that we have this dimension? And if we are about humanity, and that's what Lilly does, then I want to show up where conversations about life are happening. So even now that we're doing this transition, it's so interesting that you're asking me that, because I'll go to partner meetings, or I'll go to conferences, and now people are starting to get the fact, okay, you're a medicine company, let's say it's a partner meeting, like, okay, so we're gonna put you into this particular health sector or health vertical. Like, no, but medicine is for when you're ill, yes, but all of us, unfortunately, at some point may get ill. So I want to be in conversations where life is discussed, and where, like, life, I guess, overall, because illness is part of life. And I want to be in conversations that are very relevant to culture, because that's where the heart of people is. And so, I always say my objective is very easy, which is, from a marketing perspective, I want Lilly to be a brand that people love and trust, full stop. Not a great pharma brand, not a great, medicine brand, just a brand that people love and trust. And so when you look at how we're behaving in that terms, that's why, for example, this big push that I have around sports marketing and us being sponsors of the Olympics is, you will never catch us do a sponsorship, hopefully, as long as I'm somewhere in the mix, sponsorship around just a logo slap on people, or like on a jersey, or, because yes, that's part of a sponsorship. But when you look around where we position ourselves, and the reason why, for example, we are in the Olympics, or we are, starting to sponsoring women's sports as well. If you think about health and sports and an athlete really shows you what's possible when health is present. And some of the places where we play different, like, this is a constant. We will show up at the Olympics, we will sponsor our athletes, we will create that synergy between health and sports, but at the same time, we are a different type of sponsor too, because if we are about health, then if an athlete gets hurt, our job doesn't end. We don't just dip out because, all of a sudden you're not the sponsor, the spokesperson anymore. So in short, we try to position Lilly in places that matter to people, in a place where, people are experiencing life and passion, sports being one of them, in a way that is authentic to the brand. So we won't, mold to the sponsorship or to the place, but we will show up as a medicine company. And another thing that you'll probably see the brand do, and you have seen, hopefully, over the past 2 or 3 years, is because we are about health and the importance of life. So far, I'm very proud that the company has been willing to help the brand redirect conversation. So, for example, after COVID, we had our first campaign as a medicine company. And then when the Olympics happened in Tokyo in 2021, that was a time where the world was coming back together. And we knew that the world was going to be distracted by the amount of medals that the US was going to win. And we were going to win a lot of medals. But the point of view that the brand took and that the campaign took was that in that moment where the discourse was around access to medicine, access to the vaccine, and health was in the forefront of people, and the Olympics had been halted for the first time in history because of health, we said, the greatness of a country is not measured by the number of medals you win, is measured by the health of its people. And that was the message of the brand. So you will find us redirect conversations to health when we think culture is being distracted.
Awesome. Well, I think we've reached time. I'm sure there's more questions to be had, but thank you so much for your time. And
my pleasure.
I'm hoping everyone's thinking about mentors and sponsors, because I certainly am. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, guys.
As we get down